Good evening. Let the day settle now, and let yourself be simply here, in the quiet, for a while. You have woken from a bad dream, afraid something in your mind had gone wrong. But sleep science keeps finding the opposite. A nightmare is not a mind failing in the night. It is a mind quietly at work. And here is the quieter truth. The dread you felt was never the problem. It was the friction of repair, happening while you slept. Welcome to Sleepy Science. Tonight, we will follow that quiet work together, not to explain your fears away, but to see what your sleeping mind has been doing for you all along. Let your shoulders settle into the dark. In a resting brain, the chemistry that carries alarm is already sinking toward its floor, asking nothing of you. So let us begin where the dread begins, inside the sleeping brain, in the slow hours when it works softly on your behalf. Somewhere in the night, a dream turned frightening, and you woke with your heart working hard in the dark. It is easy to read that moment as a warning, as if the mind had slipped, or something inside had quietly gone wrong. Yet nightmares are one of the most common experiences human beings share, found in every culture that has ever been studied. Evolution rarely keeps something this widespread unless it earns its place. So a softer question sits underneath tonight, and we will follow it slowly. If a nightmare feels like the brain breaking down, why would nature keep building one, night after night? And what might it be working through on your behalf while you sleep? A nightmare, at its simplest, is a dream that carries strong fear. It is not a separate kind of event, and it is not a sign that your mind is damaged. It rises from the same nightly process that makes every ordinary dream, only turned towards something that unsettles you. The brain that produces a frightening dream is the same healthy brain that files a memory or eases a worry by morning. Nothing extra has broken to make the dream feel dark. Understanding this gently loosens the first knot. The dream is a normal product of a working mind, not evidence of a mind that has somehow gone astray in the quiet of the night. The word nightmare is older than the science behind it. In early English, a mare was an imagined spirit thought to sit on the chest of a sleeper and press the breath from them. People felt the weight and named a creature to explain it. Centuries later, we understand that the sensations came from the sleeping body itself, not from any visitor in the room. There was never anything on the chest. The history holds a small comfort. For as long as people have slept, they have sometimes woken afraid and searched for a reason. You are part of a very long, very ordinary human line, and the fear has always had an explanation. Much of what we know began in 1953, when researchers noticed the eyes of sleeping people darting quickly beneath closed lids. They called it rapid eye movement sleep, or REM, and it changed how we picture the resting mind. During REM, the brain is nearly as active as it is when you are awake. Waves of electricity move across it, and most vivid dreaming happens here. Sleep, it turned out, is not a single dark stretch of nothing. It is a landscape with its own weather and seasons. Inside one of those seasons, the mind lights up and begins to work in its own strange, quiet language, entirely on its own. Every night, you move through sleep in cycles, each lasting about 90 minutes, roughly the length of a long, slow walk. Each cycle ends with a stretch of REM, so a normal night holds several dreaming periods, not just one. This means everyone dreams, whether or not the dreams are remembered by morning. People who are sure they never dream are almost always people who simply do not recall them. And that forgetting is normal too. What matters here is the rhythm. Again and again through the dark, the brain returns to this active, dreaming state. As if keeping an appointment, it has faithfully kept on nearly every night of your life. REM does not spread evenly across the night. In the first cycles, it is brief, sometimes only a few minutes long. With each cycle, it lengthens. So the longest and most vivid dreaming tends to arrive in the hours before you wake. This is one reason a frightening dream is often the one you remember. It happened close to morning, near the surface of waking. The timing can make a nightmare feel like the whole night's story, when it was really a late chapter. Knowing the shape of the night softens that impression. The dark was mostly quiet. The vivid part simply came near the end, where memory could still reach it. There is a quiet safeguard built into dreaming. During REM, the body is gently held still, its major muscles switched off in a state called atonia. Signals that would normally move your arms and legs are paused before they arrive. This is why, even in a dream where you try to run, your resting body stays soft and unmoving on the bed. The design is protective. The mind can rehearse almost anything while the body remains safe and quiet. Whatever unfolds in the dream, you are not truly acting it out. You are lying still, breathing slowly, held in place by a system that keeps the sleeping body well outside the story's reach. When researchers watch the brain during REM, the regions tied to emotion become especially busy. The deep areas that handle feeling and memory light up, while some of the careful, logical regions rest. This is part of why dreams feel so emotional and so loosely stitched together. The night leans toward feeling rather than reason. For a frightening dream, it means emotion is doing much of the work, drawing on old impressions and unfinished feelings. This is not a flaw in the machinery. It is a shift in emphasis, the mind turning down its daytime accountant and turning up the part that feels, so that emotional material can be handled in a different, quieter way. Deep in the brainstem sits a small cluster of cells with a large job. It releases noradrenaline, sometimes called norepinephrine, the chemical of alarm and alertness. When you are startled or afraid while awake, this is the signal that floods the system, sharpening focus and readying the body to act. It is useful, and it is loud. All day it rises and falls with your attention and your stress. For most of your waking life, some level of it is always present. A low hum of readiness beneath everything you do. Hold this chemical in mind, because what happens to it during dreaming is where the shape of the whole night quietly begins to change. Here is the turn the night quietly makes. During REM sleep, that alarm chemical, noradrenaline, falls to the lowest level of your entire day. For a while, it goes almost silent. So the frightening images of a nightmare play out in a brain where the body's alarm signal has been switched nearly off. The fear you feel is real, but the chemical storm that fear usually brings is missing. This reframes the question we started with. If the alarm is quiet while the difficult content runs, perhaps the dread is not the system failing. Perhaps it is the friction of work being done, the mind handling something heavy in the one state calm enough to hold it. Consider what that quiet chemistry makes possible. Awake. A hard memory often arrives with a jolt. The racing heart, the tightened chest, because the alarm signal rises right along with it. In REM, that signal is turned down, so the same charged material can be approached without the full physical storm. The mind can look at something difficult while the body stays calm. It is a rare combination. The content is present, but the panic that usually guards it is not. Few moments in waking life offer this. The dreaming brain, night after night, creates a room where hard things can be met softly, held for a while, and slowly made less sharp. This leaves us with a gentle paradox. A nightmare can feel intensely frightening, and yet it unfolds in some of the calmest inner chemistry your body knows. The fear lives mostly in the story and the imagery, not in a flood of stress hormones. That is why the feeling can fade so quickly once you are fully awake and the alarm system comes back online. The dream was vivid, but it was not the emergency it seemed. Your body was resting the whole time, breathing slowly, chemically at ease. The mind was simply working with strong material. And strong material can look dramatic from the inside, even when the system running it is deeply at rest. There is a second chemical worth meeting, and its name is acetylcholine. While the alarm chemical falls during REM, this one rises. It is tied to vivid attention and rich, detailed experience. So the dreaming brain runs an unusual recipe. High acetylcholine and very low noradrenaline at the same time. That mixture is part of why dreams feel so real and so sensory, yet so free of ordinary panic. Vividness is turned up while alarm is turned down. It is a state that almost never occurs while you are awake. In it, the mind can render a whole world in detail and move through even a difficult one, without the body ever sounding its usual alarm. Sleep scientists have a name for what this calm yet vivid state may allow: overnight therapy. The idea is that REM sleep offers a nightly session where emotional memories are revisited in that low alarm chemistry. In the safety of quiet noradrenaline, the brain can return to charged experiences and begin to work them loose. The therapist's room and the dreaming brain share a purpose: to meet hard feelings in a setting calm enough to soften them. This is a leading explanation, still being studied and refined. But it fits what we see. A mind returning, night after night, to difficult material in the one chemical state, gentle enough to handle it without being overwhelmed. One elegant way to describe this work is simple. Sleep to forget, and sleep to remember. Across a night of REM, the brain seems to keep the information of an experience while easing off its emotional sting. You remember that something happened, but the memory presses on you a little less. Morning often brings this quietly. A worry that felt sharp at midnight can sit softer by dawn, though nothing about the facts has changed. What changed was the charge. The dreaming mind, working in its calm chemistry, had begun separating the event from the ache of it, keeping the lesson while slowly setting down some of the weight. Consider the plain logic of evolution for a moment. Traits that cost energy and yet appear in nearly everyone tend to survive because they do something useful. Dreaming is not cheap. The brain spends real fuel to run these vivid nightly states. If frightening dreams were only harmful, natural selection would have had millions of years to quiet them. And it has not. Their persistence is itself a kind of evidence. It suggests that even the difficult dreams sit close to some benefit, that the discomfort is bundled with a function worth keeping. Nature is thrifty. It rarely preserves an expensive habit in creature after creature, unless that habit is quietly earning its keep. Frightening dreams are not the mark of a troubled few. They appear across every part of the world. In every culture, researchers have looked at, and across the whole span of a human life. Children have them. Elders have them. Calm people and worried people alike. This wide sharing carries its own gentle message. Something so common is far more likely to be part of the ordinary design of the mind than a private fault in yours. When you wake unsettled, you are doing something nearly every human who has ever lived has also done. The experience is not a signal that you are unusual. It is, in fact, one of the most human things there is. A dream is built entirely from within. No light reaches the closed eyes. No sound stages the scene. And yet the mind assembles a whole world. Places, faces, movement, weather. It draws on memory, feeling, and fragments of the day, then stitches them into something that feels lived. This inward-made quality is worth pausing on. A nightmare is not something happening to you from outside. It is something your own mind is composing, in private, for reasons of its own. The author and the audience are the same person. And an author who returns again and again to difficult scenes is usually not lost in them, but working at them, testing how the story might resolve. Dreams can feel completely real while they last, and there is a reason for that. In REM, the brain generates its own images and then experiences them as if they had arrived through the senses. The regions that would normally process sight and sound and movement are running, but they are running on internal signals. So a dreamed room looks like a room, and a dreamed fear feels like fear. The realness is not a trick played against you. It is the natural result of a mind rendering an experience in full detail. What feels vivid at night can loosen its grip by morning. Once waking returns, and the same senses turn back toward the quiet, ordinary world around you. Return, now, to the feeling of dread itself. In this reframing, the fear inside a nightmare may be less the purpose of the dream than a byproduct of its labor. When the mind handles heavy emotional material, some of that heaviness is felt directly, the way effort is felt in a working muscle. The discomfort is the friction of the process, not proof that the process has gone wrong. This does not make the fear pleasant, and it does not ask you to enjoy it. It only offers a kinder frame. What wakes you unsettled may be the sensation of something being carried and set down, rather than the sign of something breaking apart inside you. Many people carry a quiet worry after a bad dream, a sense that a disturbed mind must produce disturbing dreams, and a faint shame at their own sleeping brain. It is worth setting that worry down gently. The content of a difficult dream does not measure the health of the person having it. Kind, steady, well-loved people have frightening dreams, and so does nearly everyone else. The dream is drawn from the ordinary work of processing a life, not from some flaw at the center of who you are. Lying awake, faintly ashamed of what your mind produced in the dark, you were simply misreading the evidence. There was nothing to be ashamed of. Slowly, a different picture comes into view. A nightmare begins to look less like a malfunction and more like maintenance, the mind tending to itself in the hours you finally set the day down. Like many kinds of upkeep, some of the work is not comfortable to feel. Cleaning a wound stings, stretching a stiff muscle aches, and revisiting a charged memory can frighten, even as it helps. The sting is not the failure of the care. It is part of how the care gets done. Seen this way, the frightening dream is not the machinery breaking in the night. It is the machinery running, quietly, faithfully, doing repair that is easier to manage while you sleep. Almost all of this happens without your knowing. You lie down, you let go of the day, and beneath your stillness, the mind keeps working, sorting, softening, filing, releasing. You wake with only a fragment, sometimes a frightening one, and mistake that fragment for the whole. But the fragment is a glimpse of labor already underway, not a stumble in the dark. The greater part of the night's work leaves no memory at all, only its results. A feeling a little lighter, a worry a little smaller, a day a little easier to meet. The dream you recall is the small, visible edge of a long, quiet effort made on your behalf. It helps to picture the sleeping mind as a patient, unhurried worker. It does not rush the difficult material, and it does not avoid it. Night after night it returns, in that calm chemistry, to whatever still carries weight, and it works at it a little at a time. Some nights the work is gentle and leaves no trace. Some nights it brushes against something sharp, and you wake having felt the edge. Either way, the effort is steady and the intention is care. The mind is not trying to frighten you. It is trying, in the only hours quiet enough for it, to help you carry your life a little more lightly by morning. So the first stretch of the night gathers into a single, softer idea. A nightmare is not the mind failing, it is the mind at work, meeting hard feeling in the calmest chemistry the body knows. The alarm falls quiet. The imagery grows vivid, and something heavy is handled while you rest. The dread we began by fearing looks more and more like the friction of that handling. What we have not yet seen is exactly what the mind is doing with those frightening scenes. Why fear? Of all things, is the material it chooses to work with. That question is where the next part of the night begins to move, and we will follow it gently. Something in you has quietly settled since we began. A gentle tap to subscribe lets another restless mind find this quiet place too. Now, let the breath slow, and we rest here together, one sleepy soul at a time. Right now, in the quiet of your own resting brain, the alarm chemical we spoke of is already low, lower than it has been all day. You did not have to make that happen. You only had to stop adding to it and lie still while the night took over. The frightening scenes the mind chooses to work with are not chosen against you. They are met here, in exactly this calm, where difficult things can be held without the body ever sounding its alarm. Notice how slow the breath has become. The gentle work is already underway. What the mind does with fear, and why it reaches for it at all, is where the next part of the night begins to lean. There is a leading theory about why frightening dreams exist at all. A Finnish researcher named Antti Revonsuo suggested that dreams are a kind of practice space. During sleep, the brain may run safe rehearsals of difficult situations, the way a pilot trains in a flight simulator before ever leaving the ground. In that simulator, a mistake costs nothing. The plane on the screen can go down, and the pilot walks away, a little more prepared. Revonsuo called this idea threat simulation. It proposes that the dreaming mind builds small trials of trouble, so the waking mind meets trouble already a little familiar with it. Why would a brain spend the night rehearsing hardship it might never face? The answer this theory offers is a simple one. Long ago, the people who lasted were often the ones ready for difficulty before it arrived. A mind that had quietly practiced a hard moment could respond a half-second faster when it counted. That half-second was sometimes the whole difference. So a brain that rehearsed in sleep may have passed on its habits more often. Over many generations, the rehearsal could become built in. Under this view, the unsettling dream is not a glitch in the machine. It is an old inheritance, still running. The most reassuring part of this idea is that the rehearsal stays completely safe. While you dream, your body holds almost entirely still. Signals that would normally move your arms and legs are gently paused at the spinal cord, so you rarely act out what you see. It is a little like a driving simulator bolted to the floor. The road rushes toward you. The wheel turns in your hands. Yet the car never actually moves an inch. The mind can walk right up to something difficult and feel it fully, while the sleeping body rests, untouched, exactly where it lies. The stakes on the screen are never the stakes in the room. A rehearsal only helps if it feels real enough to matter. Picture a fire drill where nobody believed there was any smoke. People would stroll out, learn nothing, and forget it by lunch. The unease inside a dream may work in much the same way. It is the part that makes the practice stick. The brain seems to attach genuine feeling to the imagined situation. So the lesson lands in the body, not only in the thinking mind. Seen this way, the discomfort is not the point of the dream. It is closer to the glue that helps a rehearsal be remembered long after the night is over. So the question we started with begins to soften a little. We asked why the mind would build something that feels like it is breaking down. Here is the first turn in that question. If the fear is the glue that makes a rehearsal stick, then feeling afraid in a dream is not proof that anything has gone wrong. It may simply be the sign that a practice session is working the way it was shaped to work. The dream is not failing you by frightening you. In this theory, the fright is the tool, held with care, doing quiet work in the dark while the rest of you sleeps. There is a pattern that fits this idea, though it is not proof on its own. Young children tend to have more frightening dreams than adults do. Their nights hold a larger share of worried, watchful dreams, especially between the ages of about 3 and 8. Under threat simulation, this makes a certain sense. Childhood is when a mind is first learning what the world can do. A brain still mapping which situations to take seriously might run more practice trials early on. As a person grows and gathers real experience, the theory suggests the rehearsals may ease. The simulator seems to run less often once life has taught its own lessons. This theory leans on the world our ancestors lived in, not the one outside your window now. For most of human history, the serious risks were fairly steady. A person needed to stay alert to the natural world, to sudden hazards, and to their standing within the small group they depended on. A mind that rehearsed those exact kinds of trouble carried a real advantage. This may be why some dream fears feel ancient and oddly out of step with modern life. The simulator was tuned for an older world. It still runs its old lessons faithfully, even when the trouble it prepares for rarely visits us anymore. Not every unsettling dream reaches all the way back to ancient times. Though, the simulator appears to be flexible. It often takes whatever a person worries about now and builds its practice from that. Someone weighed down by work may rehearse a version of that pressure at night. The raw material is personal, even when the underlying machinery is old. Think of it like a stage that keeps the same lights and ropes but changes the play to match the actor. The theory holds that the function stays the same across the ages. Only the costumes change. What the mind rehearses is drawn from the life you are actually living right now. Most of these vivid, story-shaped dreams arrive during a stage of sleep called REM, short for rapid eye movement. In REM, the brain grows nearly as active as it is while you are awake, yet the body stays still and resting. You pass through this stage several times a night, and the longest stretches come toward morning. That timing is part of why a difficult dream is often the last thing you remember before waking. It was simply the most recent rehearsal, caught mid-scene as the night quietly ended. The mind was not dwelling on it or trapping you inside it. You just happened to wake up nearby. One detail makes this theory more intriguing than pure chance. Frightening dreams are not spread evenly across every possible subject. They tend to gather around situations that once carried real weight for survival. A mind choosing scenes at random would rehearse trivial things as often as serious ones. Instead, the difficult dreams seem to circle back to what matters most to a living creature. To the theory's supporters, that focus looks less like random noise and more like a design. Something appears to be choosing the rehearsals with care, drawing again and again from the small handful of troubles that have always been worth being ready for. Here is another thread of support, still gentle and far from complete. Studies of people living through very hard times have found more threatening content in their dreams. Children who have faced real upheaval, for instance, tend to have more of these intense nights than children living in calm. Under threat simulation, this fits rather neatly. When life presents more genuine risk, the rehearsal system appears to run more often, as if practicing harder for a harder world. It is worth saying plainly that this is a correlation, not a settled fact. The pattern leans in the theory's favor. It does not, on its own, prove the whole idea true. It is only fair to hold this theory loosely in the hand. Threat simulation is one of the leading explanations, yet it is not the final word, and thoughtful researchers still disagree about it. Some point out that not every bad dream rehearses a clear difficulty, and that a great many dreams are simply calm. So the question keeps turning slowly. We began by asking whether a nightmare means something has broken inside us. We can now say, at least, that a frightening dream might be doing a job, even while science is still learning exactly what that job is. The uncertainty is honest. The old story of pure malfunction has grown noticeably weaker. Consider what makes any rehearsal worth having. It lets you fail without paying for the failure. A musician can play a wrong note in an empty room 100 times, and nothing is lost but a little time. The theory suggests the dreaming mind may offer the same quiet gift for life's harder moments. In the dark, you can meet a difficult situation, fumble your way through it, and wake with your real life fully intact. Every clumsy attempt is free of charge. By this view, the uneasy dream is a kind of generosity from the brain, letting you practice the hardest things in a place where mistakes cost nothing at all. You have far more of these rehearsal dreams than you will ever remember. Most dissolve the moment you wake, leaving no trace behind. The ones that linger tend to be the most emotionally charged, because strong feeling helps a memory hold its shape. This can leave a lopsided impression of your own nights. It can feel as though sleep is mostly full of fear, when in truth, the calm rehearsals simply slipped away unnoticed. The frightening dream is not more common than the peaceful one. It is only stickier in the morning. What you carry to breakfast is a small, dramatic sample of a much quieter, gentler night. So this stretch of the night leaves us with a mind that may be rehearsing, not unraveling. Under threat, simulation. The difficult dream is a safe trial run, shaped by a long history, choosing its lessons with unusual care. Yet rehearsal is only one half of what the night seems to be doing. Practicing for what might come tomorrow is useful work. But there is a second, quieter task underway, one that turns not toward the future, but toward what already happened and still carries a small ache. That is where we drift next. For now, simply notice that the frightened part of the dream may have been on your side all along. Something in you has settled since we began, even while we spoke of frightening things. Notice that your breathing has stayed slow and even, mostly unbothered by the shadows in the story. Take one easy breath now, and let your shoulders sink a little lower into the bed. There is nothing here to be afraid of. We are only looking, gently, at how the sleeping mind quietly takes care of you. We'll keep going, slowly. Think of a fear as a knot tied between a memory and a feeling of danger. A nightmare, strange as it sounds, is often the brain working to loosen that knot. Scientists call this quiet work fear extinction. It does not mean the memory disappears. It means the brain slowly learns that the old memory no longer needs the old alarm. Picture a smoke detector that once shrieked at burnt toast. Over many mornings, it stops treating toast as a fire. Your sleeping brain does something similar. It revisits a charged memory and teaches itself, gently, that the danger has already passed. Here is a comforting detail about that loosening. The brain does not erase the frightening memory at all. Instead, it lays down a new, calmer memory beside the old one. The two now sit side by side. When something reminds you of the old fear, the calmer memory can step forward first. Imagine a worn path across a field, and a gentler path opening right next to it. The old path is still there, but your feet begin choosing the new one. Fear extinction works the same way. Nothing is deleted from you. Something kinder is simply built alongside what was already there. Two parts of the brain lead this nightly work. One is the amygdala, a small almond-shaped area that acts like the brain's alarm bell. The other sits just behind your forehead and works like a calm manager. When that manager is strong, it sends a quiet signal down to the alarm and softens it. Think of a steady hand resting on a startled dog, saying, "It is all right now." During healthy sleep, that calming line grows stronger. The manager learns to hush the alarm a little sooner each time. Night after night, the conversation between them grows gentler and less afraid. You might wonder why night is the right time for this repair. The answer lives in the brain's chemistry. During dreaming sleep, a stress chemical called noradrenaline falls to its lowest level of the whole day. Noradrenaline is the messenger that carries alarm through the body. With it turned nearly off, the brain can revisit a hard memory without the old jolt of panic. It is like reviewing a frightening photo in a calm, well-lit room instead of a dark alley. The picture itself is the same. The fear wrapped around it is quieter. That calm chemistry is what lets the loosening happen. There is also a rhythm to this nightly repair. During dreaming sleep, the brain settles into a slow, steady wave that researchers call theta. It repeats only a few times each second, like a soft metronome keeping time. This rhythm helps the alarm bell and the calm manager work in step with one another. When two rowers pull in time, the boat glides forward smoothly. When brain regions fire in time, their messages land cleanly. Theta is that shared timing. Under its steady beat, the manager's quieting signal reaches the alarm at just the right moment to soften it. So what is actually happening while the dream plays out? The brain is replaying a charged scene, but under that calm chemistry and steady rhythm. Each replay is a little like rinsing a stain in cool water. One pass does very little. Many gentle passes lift the color, thread by thread. The frightening scene returns. The calm manager answers it, and the alarm learns to stay a bit quieter. This is one reason a hard dream can repeat. It is not the mind stuck in a broken loop. It is the mind running the same lesson again, softening the memory a small amount with every pass. It helps to be clear about what this work is and is not. Fear extinction is a kind of learning, not a kind of forgetting. The brain is not scrubbing the past away. It is teaching a new lesson that can quiet the old one. Think of an old note that says, "This is dangerous." The brain does not tear it up. It writes a gentler note on top that says, "You are safe now." Both notes remain. But the newer, calmer one is read first. Learning, not erasing, is how the night loosens fear from a memory. This raises a quiet question about what happens when sleep is cut short. Studies of dreaming sleep suggest this repair needs its full time to finish. When dreaming sleep is trimmed away, the calm lesson does not get filed as firmly. The old fear lingers a little longer, still waiting to be softened. It is like being pulled from a task right before the final step. The work is almost done, yet it does not quite hold. And here the question turns. Perhaps the dread you wake with is not a sign of damage, but of a repair that was interrupted before it could close. There is a wider gift hidden inside this learning. Once the brain marks one thing as safe, that calm can spread to things nearby. Scientists call this generalization. Learn that one dark hallway is harmless, and other dark hallways start to feel a little easier too. The safe lesson widens, like a single warm lamp lighting more of a room than its own small bulb. A nightmare may work on one exact fear, Yet the calm it builds can reach beyond that single scene. The circle of ease grows slowly outward, night after night, wider than the one memory it began with. Daytime therapists lean on this very circuit when they help people face old fears. In gentle, repeated steps, a person meets a memory in safety until its grip loosens. That careful method has a familiar shape. Your sleeping brain has been running a soft version of it all along, without a single instruction from you. Each night of dreaming becomes a quiet rehearsal of safety. The frightened memory is met, answered, and eased, a little more each time. What can feel like the mind breaking down in the dark may be, more truly, the mind quietly mending itself. What just moved through these last few thoughts? That a hard dream may be the mind mending rather than breaking, is not only something to know. You may be carrying it in your own body right now. Somewhere there may be a memory that still tightens you when it surfaces, one you have quietly wondered about. Notice, if you can, where that tightness rests tonight. The jaw, perhaps. The chest. The narrow space between your shoulders. You do not need to solve it. The calm chemistry that loosens fear is already moving in you, asking nothing at all. Let one slow breath go, and let that place soften by the smallest amount. The rest of the night leans further into this same gentle work. Think of a hard memory as a photograph with a loud sound stuck to it. During dream sleep, the brain does something quietly clever. It keeps the picture but turns the volume down. This is the overnight therapy we touched on earlier. The details of what happened stay filed away, while the raw sting attached to them slowly softens. This is why last month's embarrassment usually feels smaller than yesterday's. Sleep has been peeling the fact apart from the feeling, night after night, without ever waiting for your permission to begin. The event remains yours to remember. The alarm it once carried is quietly let go. One reason this softening can happen comes down to chemistry. That same alarm signal, noradrenaline, quiets during dream sleep, sinking toward one of its lowest points. In that unusually calm bath, the brain can revisit a charged memory without the alarm firing all over again. It is a little like watching lightning from behind a window. In a storm you already know cannot reach you. The flash still comes, and you see it clearly. Your body simply no longer braces as though it were about to be struck. The memory still returns. It is only that it no longer arrives as an emergency worth waking for. Sleep scientists sometimes describe two jobs happening at once, the same pair we named earlier, and they sound like opposites. One is sleep to remember, holding on to what a moment taught you. The other is sleep to forget, letting go of the emotional heat that came wrapped around it. A nightmare can quietly be both at the same time. It keeps the lesson hidden inside a threat while draining away the panic bolted to it. By morning you might recall the dream only faintly, yet feel a little lighter, as if something heavy had been set down somewhere in the dark and simply left there. Picture a workshop that opens only after the house goes quiet and dark. During dream sleep, the brain reviews the emotional moments of recent days, sorting what still stings from what has already settled. A nightmare is one of the louder tasks on that workbench. It takes a fear that felt too big to hold and turns it over slowly, studying it from angles that waking life never allows. The unsettling images are not really the point. They are the sparks thrown off while something heavier is being shaped, patiently, into a form that you can finally carry in the morning. Have you ever woken from a bad dream, then found by noon that it barely troubled you? That fade is not simple forgetting. It is the result of work that was already done in the night. When the brain replays a charged memory in the calm of dream sleep, it can store the softer version in its place. The next time the memory surfaces, it arrives carrying less of its old weight. This is the same reason grief slowly loosens its hold. Each night takes one small turn at the knot, until one day it simply holds less tightly than before. Every time you recall a memory, the brain briefly makes it editable again, a little like opening a saved document. Whatever mood you are in as it reopens can be written quietly back into the file. Dream sleep seems to use this window on purpose. It reopens a difficult memory inside its own calm chemistry, then saves it again with a little less fear attached. Over several nights, the same event can be reshaped from something that jolts you awake into something you can merely notice. The story stays true. Only the alarm fastened to it grows softer. Here is a gentler way to read the dread itself. When a machine does heavy lifting, it gives off heat, and nobody mistakes that warmth for a breakdown. The fear inside a nightmare often works much the same way. It is the heat thrown off while the mind handles something weighty, not a signal that the mind has failed. The intensity you feel is roughly the size of the task being done. A dream that frightens you is often one that is carrying more, not one that has somehow gone wrong in the middle of the night. Consider what a nightmare is actually made of. Its raw material is emotion, the leftover charge from moments that never quite finished settling. To work on that charge, the brain has to bring it back into the room and feel it again, at least a little. That is why the experience is uncomfortable, almost by design. You cannot soften a fear you refuse to touch. The dream touches it for you, in a place where nothing can truly reach you. So the feeling can be worn gently down instead of buried somewhere deeper, where it would keep its sharp edge. It can seem strange that a dream feels more frightening than the day that first inspired it. But turning a feeling up is sometimes exactly how the brain turns it down. To fully process fear, the system has to meet it at close range, the way a doctor first finds the sore spot before easing it. The dream raises the emotion so it can be handled completely rather than left half addressed. What feels like the fear growing larger is often the fear being fully met, so that by morning there is simply less of it left for you to meet again. Notice what often arrives once a hard dream has passed. When the wave of fear crests and finally breaks, a quiet frequently follows, a sense of the air having cleared. That calm is not random luck. It is what remains when a charge has been spent rather than stored away. Think of a thunderstorm that leaves the evening cooler and easier to breathe. The nightmare gathered a pressure that had been slowly building and released it in the dark. You may not recall the storm by afternoon, only that something feels a little more settled than it did the night before. One sleep researcher described dreaming as a kind of overnight first aid for the emotional bruises of daily life. The comparison fits more closely than it first seems. A wound does not heal by being ignored, and it rarely heals all at once. It needs to be cleaned, which can sting, and then given quiet time to close. Dream sleep cleans the small emotional cuts of the day, the frustrations and frights we barely bother to name. A nightmare is that same care applied to a deeper cut, working on something that will take more than one night to fully mend. The work rarely finishes in a single sitting, and it was never really meant to. One difficult memory may be revisited across many nights, each pass lifting away a little more of its weight. This is why time genuinely does help, though not simply by passing. The nights inside that time are quietly doing something. Each one takes another small turn at a feeling that once felt completely immovable. What looks from the outside like slowly getting over something is, underneath, a series of gentle sessions, held in the dark, that you never had to schedule or consciously attend. Children have far more nightmares than adults, and this is a sign of growth rather than of trouble. Bad dreams are most common between roughly the ages of 3 and 8. The very years the emotional brain is being wired into place. A young child is meeting fear for the first time in 100 new shapes, with few tools yet to manage any of them. The sleeping mind quietly steps in to help build those tools. Far from a flaw in childhood, frequent vivid dreams are part of how a small brain practices holding feelings still much bigger than itself. A child's brain is a little like a house still under construction. The rooms that will one day manage fear, the calm upstairs offices, are among the very last to be finished. Until then, big feelings arrive with almost nothing to steady them. Dream sleep offers a safe practice ground while that slow construction carries on. Night after night, a child rehearses meeting fear and coming through it unharmed. Each dream lays one small beam in the structure that will later let them stay steady when something startles them awake. The frightening dream is quietly teaching a skill meant to last a lifetime. Something in the question begins to turn here. We started by asking why a caring brain would frighten its own owner in the middle of the night. But watch how a child's dreams unfold, and a different shape appears. The fear was never truly aimed at the sleeper. It is the feeling itself being worked on, held up to the light so it can be learned rather than dreaded. What looked like the mind attacking itself starts to look far more like the mind teaching itself. The rest of tonight quietly follows that turn, toward what all this careful, uncomfortable labor is finally for. As those inner rooms finish building, the nightmares usually ease on their own. By the later teenage years, most people dream in darker tones, far less often than they did at 7. This is not because the world quietly grew safer around them. It is because the brain grew more skilled at handling fear long before it ever reaches a dream. The heavy lifting that once needed a nightmare can now be done more gently and awake. The fading of childhood bad dreams is a kind of graduation, a sign the practice worked and its tools are finally in place. The same machinery keeps working long after childhood, only more gently. An adult still meets new fears, still carries days that ask more than the mind can settle by bedtime. When one of those days grows heavy enough, the old childhood process wakes again, and a nightmare quietly returns. It is not a slip backward or a sign of weakness. It is a well-built tool doing exactly what it learned to do decades earlier. The system you practiced as a child never really left you. It simply waits, quiet and ready, for the nights when the load is large enough to need it. There is a small clue hidden in how this learning actually happens. A skill is rarely mastered on the first attempt, whether it is riding a bike or steadying a fear. The brain seems to understand this deeply. When a feeling is too large to resolve inside a single night, it does not simply give up on the task. It sets the work aside and returns to it later, the way you might close a difficult book and open it again another evening. That returning is not a malfunction at all. It is how the mind handles anything too heavy to finish at once. This helps explain why the very same dream sometimes comes back. When a memory still carries more charge than a single night can drain, the brain quietly schedules another visit. The dream returns not to torment you, but to finish something it had already started. Think of a splinter the body works on across several days, easing it a little closer to the surface each time. A recurring theme in dreams often marks a feeling that has not yet fully worked its way out. Its return is a sign the process is still active, still patiently reaching toward the end of the task. Recurring dreams rarely repeat themselves exactly, and that small drift is quietly telling. Each return usually arrives a little changed. The way you retell a favorite story slightly differently every time. Those shifts are the fingerprints of processing at work. The brain is not replaying a fixed recording of the past. It is reworking the same emotional material, testing new endings, loosening one knot from a fresh angle. When the changes finally lead somewhere the feeling can rest, the dream tends to stop returning. Its quiet disappearance is often the surest sign that the work it was doing has, at last, been completed. It can feel unfair that a mind meant to protect you keeps handing back the same fear. But consider how you learn anything truly worth keeping. A hard lesson is reviewed, not shown once and then abandoned forever. The dream that returns is treating your feeling the way a patient teacher treats a difficult idea, offering it again until it is genuinely understood. There is no punishment hidden in the repetition, only a kind of quiet persistence. The brain simply does not like to leave emotional work unfinished, and it will keep gently returning to the desk until the task is truly done. A returning dream is often pointing at what matters most, not at what has gone wrong. The brain does not spend its scarce night hours on the trivial or the forgettable. When it revisits a feeling again and again, It is treating that feeling as important enough to resolve with real care. Seen in that light, a recurring nightmare is less an alarm and more an underline. The mind marking something worth the extra attention. The discomfort of meeting it once more is simply the cost of that thoroughness. What keeps returning is usually what your deeper self most wants to see healed. None of this asks anything of you while it happens. You do not have to interpret a dream, or brace against it, or solve it by morning for the work to quietly succeed. The processing runs on its own schedule. Inside a chemistry, you never have to arrange or even understand. Like the slow healing of a bruise you forget to check on. It continues, whether or not you attend to it. This may be the softest comfort in all of it. The most important repair your mind performs at night is the very part you are never required to do. So the next time you wake with your heart still racing, you might hold a slightly different thought. The fear that shook you was not proof that something inside you is broken. It was the sound of something being mended. Work that simply chose the safety of the dark to be done. What frightened you was busy on your behalf, softening a weight so that the waking hours would carry it a little more easily. Nothing was malfunctioning in the night. Something was quietly, faithfully at work, the way it has been on countless nights of your life. Here is what these hours have been showing, piece by patient piece. A nightmare is not the mind failing in the dark. It is the mind working. In the calm chemistry of dream sleep, it rehearses threats where nothing can reach you, and replays charged memories until the fact of an event finally lets go of its sting. The dread you feel is the friction of that labor, never the evidence of a fault. Your frightening dreams have been, all along, the careful work of a mind determined to keep you whole. The fear was the byproduct. The healing was the point. The work you have been hearing about is running in you right now, needing no instruction, asking nothing you have to give. Somewhere in the calm you have drifted into, a weight is being turned over gently and set down a little lighter than before. You were never the one who had to do the mending. Let one slow breath leave you. There was never anything to fix in you, only something being quietly cared for. What all of this has been circling is close now. You can meet it resting. Waking with a pounding heart can feel like proof that something went wrong inside. It almost never is. A racing pulse after a bad dream is a rehearsal finishing, not a true alarm. The danger was practiced, not real. Within a minute or two, the chemistry that spiked begins to settle on its own. Your body is not turning against you. It is closing a task it opened in the dark, then letting the charge drain quietly away. Nightmares that visit often are not automatically a sign of illness. For most people, a run of hard dreams simply means the mind has more to sort. A stretch of stress, a loss, a season of change. The workshop stays open a little longer. That is maintenance, not malfunction. The brain returns to heavier material until the weight on it eases. Frequency alone rarely means something is broken. More often, it means something is being worked through. How a dream leaves you in the morning is not a verdict on your mind. You can wake shaken and still be perfectly well. The unease is only residue, the last of a chemistry that has already begun to fall. It fades as the room grows familiar again. Give it a few slow breaths and it thins to nothing. What you feel on waking is an echo of the work, not a measure of how sound the worker is. Many people carry a quiet shame, believing a disturbed dream must come from a disturbed mind. The science points the other way. Steady, healthy brains produce difficult dreams all the time, precisely because they are doing their job. The content can be dark while the process stays sound. A hard dream is not a confession about who you are. It is a sign the night is handling something for you, the way a healthy body runs a fever while it heals. For most of us, understanding is enough. Knowing that a nightmare is work, not damage, softens its grip on the morning. The dread loosens once it stops being read as a warning. Still, it helps to know where the ordinary ends, not to worry you, but to be gentle and complete. For a smaller number of people, the dreams stop being occasional visitors and begin crowding nearly every night. That quieter pattern is where we gently turn next. There is a line, and it is drawn kindly. When bad dreams arrive almost every night, and their weight begins to follow you into the daytime, that is more than ordinary maintenance. The tiredness lingers. Sleep itself can start to feel like a place you quietly dread. When dreams reach that far into waking life, doctors give the pattern a name: nightmare disorder. Naming it is not a judgment about you. It is simply a door that leads toward help. Here is the part that matters most. When nightmares reach that nightly, daytime bleeding weight, they are among the most treatable of all sleep troubles. This is not something anyone has to endure forever. Gentle, well-studied approaches help the great majority of people who try them. The dreams soften, thin out, and often change their shape entirely. If your nights have felt like that, the thing to carry is simple. There is a way through, and it works. One of those approaches is quietly beautiful. It is called imagery rehearsal, and it works while you are awake, in daylight, at ease. You take a dream that keeps returning and gently rewrite its ending, choosing a version that turns towards safety instead of fear. Then you picture that new ending, calmly, a few minutes a day. No reliving the fear is asked of you. You are simply offering the mind a kinder script to practice. Why would rewriting a dream while awake change the dream itself? Because you are using the very machinery the night already trusts. The sleeping brain rehearses. Imagery rehearsal simply hands it a new rehearsal to run. Over a few weeks, the practiced ending begins to surface in sleep, and the old loop loosens its hold. It is less like fighting the dream and more like teaching it. Patiently, a gentler place to go. You do not have to decide tonight whether any of this fits you. That is not the work of a dark, quiet hour. If your nights have felt heavy for a long stretch, a calm word with a doctor is a gentle next step. In daylight, whenever you are ready. For now, it is enough to know the help exists. The door is there. It is not going anywhere, and neither is your rest tonight. Let the larger truth settle back over you now. The fear inside a nightmare is not evidence that your mind is failing. It is the friction of real work, the heat thrown off as the night handles something heavy. A machine doing something difficult runs warm. So does a brain rehearsing a threat, or draining the charge from a memory. The fear is only the byproduct. The work, quietly, is the whole point. The dread is loud, but it is not the message. It is only the sound the work makes as it happens. Underneath that noise, something steady is unfolding. A threat being practiced in safety. A memory being loosened from its sting. You are not meant to enjoy the noise. You are only meant to know it does not mean harm. Beneath the fear, the whole time, the night is on your side. There is nothing in you that needs fixing for this to be true. The same brain that frightens you at night is the one keeping you whole. It does not turn cruel while you sleep. It turns to work. The frightening dream and the quiet repair are not two different minds. They are one mind, doing one job, in the only hours it has fully to itself. You can stop bracing against your own sleep now. There is no enemy waiting in the dark to be defeated. If a hard dream comes tonight, it is only the night at work, and it will pass through and be gone by morning. You are allowed to lie down without guarding yourself. The mind you are resting is not against you. It has been for you all along. Something has quietly turned across these hours. We began by asking why a night that feels like breakdown would ever be kept by evolution. Now the fear looks less like a flaw and more like the cost of care. The friction of a mind that keeps working after you let go. The question was never whether your dreams are safe. It is whether you can let that work be enough and simply rest inside it. Notice how the room feels ordinary again. The dream, if there was one, has already loosened its hold. This is how it always ends. Not with a battle won, but with the fear simply thinning until it is gone. Morning has a way of dissolving whatever the night rehearsed. What remains is you, rested, and a little more at peace with the mind that carried you here. Think of how gently the body lets a nightmare go. No effort is asked of you. The heartbeat slows. The chemistry falls. The images fade like breath on glass. You do not have to steer any of it. Letting go is the one thing your sleeping self already knows how to do. Tonight, you can trust it to do exactly that again, without your help. Perhaps the kindest thing to know is this: you were never broken for having dark dreams. You were working, the way everyone works, in the dark. The rattled morning, the racing heart, the strange fear, all of it belonged to a mind doing what a healthy mind does. There is relief in that. You can set the old worry down. It was never really yours to carry. Let the shame go soft now. The quiet fear that your sleeping brain was somehow against you can rest. It was tending you the whole time, practicing, clearing, keeping you ready for your days. A mind like that deserves your gratitude far more than your suspicion. Tonight, you might offer it a little trust instead of a little fear. It has earned it, night after night. Feel how much lighter the dark can be without the dread. When a nightmare is no longer a warning, it loses most of its power. It becomes weather, passing through, then gone. You can lie here knowing that whatever the night brings, it comes to work, not to harm. That knowing is its own kind of rest. Let it hold you now. There is nothing left for you to do tonight. The mind will do its quiet work, whether you watch it or not. Your only task is to let go and let it. Sink a little deeper into the warmth beneath you. The night is already unfolding in your favor. Gently, without needing a single thing from you. You can simply be here and be well. Let your thoughts drift now, slow and unhurried. Whatever the night rehearses, it does so for you. Whatever it clears to keep you whole. You are safe inside your own sleep. The fear has no power here that you have not already met and gently set down. Rest is not something you must earn tonight. It is already yours, and it is waiting. Breathe out, a little longer this time. With that breath, let the last of the old worry leave. Your sleeping mind is not a danger to fear, but a quiet worker to trust. It will keep its watch in its own way while you rest. There is nothing to guard against. Simply let the dark grow soft, and let yourself begin to fall. Almost there now. Feel how the edges of thought are blurring, how the day has finally loosened its grip. Whatever comes in sleep tonight, it comes to help. You can meet it, or drift straight past it, and either way you are safe. Let the last of your attention dissolve. The mind you were once afraid of is the one carrying you gently down. So rest now, gentle mind. Your dreams were never proof that something in you had failed. They were the sign of a mind still working, still tending, still keeping you whole in the only hours it has alone. The fear was only ever the friction of that care. You can lay it down. Tonight, you are allowed to sleep without shame, held by the very mind you once feared. 100 quiet facts ago, a bad dream felt like a mind coming apart in the dark. Now it looks like a mind at work. We followed the alarm chemistry falling almost to silence in REM, the only hours calm enough for this to happen. We watched the night run safe rehearsals of what frightens us, and replay charged memories until the fact of a thing loosened from its sting. What began as a fear of our own sleeping brain became something closer to trust. The night was never breaking us. It was quietly mending. A nightmare is not your mind failing at night. It is your mind working. The dread you wake with is the friction of that work, never the proof that something inside you is wrong. If understanding your nightmares softened the fear even a little, if the morning feels less heavy now, a gentle like, subscribe, or share carries this quiet to another restless mind. Someone lying awake tonight, faintly ashamed of their own sleeping brain. One quiet tap, one sleepy soul at a time. Right now, behind your closed eyes, the alarm chemistry of the day is falling toward its lowest point. The calm your mind has been moving toward since you lay down. In that stillness, it does its gentle work without a word from you. Rehearsing, clearing, softening whatever the day left charged. Let your whole self dissolve into that quiet mending. You do not have to guide it. It already knows the way, and it is entirely on your side. You can let these last thoughts fade now, like a dream loosening its grip in the first grey light, no longer needing to hold its shape. Let your body grow heavy with the work that is already underway. If sleep comes, let it carry you to the place that needs nothing from you at all. But if your eyes are closed, stay there. The Sleepy Science playlist has spent many hours here, in the quiet where the frightening and the healing turn out to be the same mind. The next hour follows the part of tonight's question this one didn't have time to finish. That hour is waiting whenever you are ready. Rest well, gentle mind. The dream was only ever the sound of your mind keeping you whole, where science becomes the softest place to rest. Good night.